It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Fastline Marketing Group. Fastline has been serving farmers and the ag industry for over 40 years and is in the name you can trust. Check out fastline.com for your latest equipment needs and fastlinemarketinggroup.com for their full suite of print and digital marketing capabilities. Fastline Marketing Group, the farmer resource and the marketing partner of choice for the agricultural community. Fastline.com. Welcome to North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Today, we get the opportunity to learn about an organization that taps into all of the areas of my interest. So this episode may be a little bit selfish on my part. This nonprofit not only grows the coolest, most obscure tropical and subtropical foods at their nursery here in Southwest Florida, but also teaches innovative and sustainable ways for small-scale farmers around the world to improve their harvests, reducing global hunger and poverty. And they do all of this in the name of Jesus. Our guest today has traveled to more than 20 countries while championing agriculture development through hands-on training and knowledgeable sharing. From my hometown, Cape Coral, Florida, I'd like to welcome Danielle Flood. Welcome, Danielle, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's a joy to share with you.
So first of all, let's start out by learning more about you. Can you tell me about your background?
Absolutely. So I grew up in the Florida cracker country in Okeechobee and was raised around ranchers and dairy farmers. But my family was a little more town. So I grew up with not a lot of agricultural background, but loved the connectedness to the land. And so when I graduated here from Fort Myers, Florida Gulf Coast University, I wanted to see the world and see what that meant. And so my Spanish degree led me to spend 2 years in French-speaking West Africa.
Wow.
Yes. So it's been a journey, but I was able to share Bible stories among nomadic cattle herders and agriculturalists. And we pulled water from the well. We pounded grain for the daily meal. And coming back to the United States, that love for the people that I was serving there never left. And so my opportunity to serve through ECHO has led me to a career of helping small-scale farmers, both at home and around the world, to increase their harvest and increase their families' livelihoods in the name of Jesus. And so it's a whole package.
That is so cool. So tell me about ECHO, now over 40 years old, right? And why was it started and how has it grown over the years?
So ECHO was kind of kicked off when someone who was familiar with kind of Midwestern agriculture went to Haiti and saw poverty for the first time. Like he thought he knew what poverty was, but then when a woman with a child who had fallen into a cook fire couldn't afford the quarter to pay a taxi to take her to the hospital, she was hitchhiking alongside of the road and they picked her up and took her to the hospital. He realized that lack of options existed and pervaded among agriculturalists in this, island nation. And so Educational Concerns for Haiti organization was then born, and he wanted to do something about the poverty in that country. The other co-founder, Dr. Martin Price, was a scientist working in a laboratory, strong faith, felt God leading him to help the poor around the world through science and technology. And so these two men together, and God's leading, started ECHO. And in 1981, Dr. Price moved to Fort Myers, Florida, on some rented land to give it a go, see what they could do full time and trusting God to lead. And so from then, ECHO expanded to Educational Concerns for Hunger organization to meet needs around the world. And that niche of providing agricultural resources and training is still what we get to do today. They started with a few packets of seeds in a refrigerator and a textbook of underutilized tropical crops. And they're basically, for so many years, they've been the connector, saying this food plant can help you, help your family. And here are seeds to try it. If it grows well, you can replicate, multiply those seeds, and then you have a new crop for your community. Wow. So since 1981, it's been growing. Now we have 57 acres here in Fort Myers, Florida, as well as centers in Thailand, Tanzania, and Burkina Faso. And those centers work as networking hubs, sharing knowledge and training through multiple countries surrounding them. So it really is a global effort.
Amazing. And what is ECHO's primary function today?
So we do, at the same time, we do direct training and agricultural resourcing. So direct training is here and around the world, opportunities to equip small-scale farmers with both the theory of improvements or crops or techniques and the practical, how does it work? Let's go and plant a field. Let's go and create a bokashi compost pile. Let's make a liquid fertilizer. They do it together so that the trainees can then go home and do it. Our direct training has trained more than 6,000 people around the world per year. And we're excited because it's not something theoretical that people have to buy into or, purchase the supplies. It's all locally available items. So then they're sharing with their community, their neighbors, and their family. The other part of our mission is resourcing. And we have a web app and a website. So echocommunity.org is a repository for so many great ideas that we've learned from farmers over the years, from, antique tools that still have applicable opportunities globally, to new web apps that can connect farmers with costs of seeds or the temperatures or, the prices of commodities in their capital city, so they know how to not get undercut. These resources exist on our website in multiple language. Our site's optimized in 10 different languages that are popular around the world. And then our app allows people to curate documents that are beneficial to them and share them without internet to anyone that they're serving kind of in the field or in a home, whatever training opportunity. So the goal is to be applicable to small scale farmers where they are and not have, overarching resource gaps where they can't, access the knowledge that they need.
That's incredible. And you have impact centers in Thailand, Tanzania, Burkina Faso. I don't know if that's how you say it.
Yes.
So what do you do in those centers?
So each of them have local training staff. As you can imagine, the agriculture of each of those centers is really diverse, and the capacity of the farmers nearby is different. Their needs are different. And so those centers optimize the trainings for the local audience. They teach what's helpful. They have local language knowledge, local cultural knowledge, and then they're able to get closer to where the farmers are.
Right. Yeah.
And so each of those centers do some demonstration, some training, some resourcing, and then kind of coordinating those language opportunities. But, agriculture in the Sahel of West Africa is pretty different than the highlands of Thailand. So
I bet.
it's a way to optimize what we can share and then gain local knowledge, because we're not going to be able to learn from farmers unless we're listening in diverse places.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see Echo places a strong emphasis on seeds. So what are the community level seed banks, and how do those operate?
Well, seeds have been in Echo's DNA from day one. It's really incredible to see how, that passion and those conversations started early on. So saving seeds here in Florida, or when people would give Dr. Price those first seeds early on, he realized to save them and then to multiply them, it takes time and knowledge, and he was learning. So he's documenting his learning. And then we developed a seed bank here at Echo Florida in the 90s from a recycled shipping container. So it was refrigerated, and they used that low temperature, low humidity to keep the seeds viable long-term.
Wow.
And then we were sharing those around the world to anybody who needed them, who could benefit from them. And, then you realize that shipping is challenging. Phytosanitary certificates are challenging. Sometimes, like as we saw during the COVID epidemic, people closed borders and said, nope, we're not taking anything right now. Right. And so seeds were hard to come by. And even before then, we were trying to train people to save their own seeds, to store them well for viability, to test for germination, and then to share. And so seed banks, seed swaps, and then the trainings therein are pretty key in all of our impact centers. We do have seed banks in Thailand and Tanzania. Our West Africa Center does not yet have a seed bank, but sharing seeds of local vegetables, underutilized fruits, crops that, maybe aren't commercially viable, but would benefit a small scale farm. Those are the ones that we want to share and give access to people and multiply, because seeds are created to multiply.
Yes. Yeah, that's so neat. And another area of focus is the use of appropriate technology. How does that play out in the US and in various international locations too?
Yeah. So appropriate technology usually surprises people, but once they see it, they're like, oh, of course, because, if you take a tractor to the center of Africa, it might help until it runs out of gas. Mm-hmm. And you may only have, enough money to get some gas. Gas is very expensive, or until something breaks and they don't have those parts in the country at all, or those technologies may not be the most appropriate, though well-intentioned. So Echo works with smaller scale pieces that can be either created in country or repaired in country. And some of these machines are as simple. So start with, a jab planter. It could be a long stick that helps a farmer get the hole, the right depth, drop a couple seeds in, and then they cover it up. But then for a larger plot, if you're planting by hand, maybe a rolling jab planter could be optimized, where the seeds are, entered into the ground at a spacing, and they could do, instead of, one row every 20 minutes, a row could take 5 minutes. And that would greatly increase the opportunity for them to finish the work without running out of energy or strength. And so appropriate technology covers a whole gamut of food, water, and shelter needs for small scale farmers. And even here in the United States, if we, look at the stores and they're selling a chicken coop, well, what if you could make a chicken coop with recycled pallets or resources that are, nearby in a pile of junk? Those kinds of things could be done. We have the plans for a chicken coop, and then what you need for it is open to interpretation. So, you need a roof, you need joists, you need those kinds of things. And it really is resource based. So what do you have, and how can you use those things you have to make what you need? There was a story that I remember told to me from a woman who worked with Echo, and she was training refugees that had come from another country, and they were, traumatized, living on, just assistance. And she was asked to teach some agriculture. And so she came in and she's like, well, what do you guys know about what grows around here? And they were having trouble with some pests, some worms on the plants. And the lady says, well, that tree will give us a water that makes the worms go away. And so from the refugees, she learned of a natural pesticide that they were able to make, multiply, and carry out.
That's amazing.
And so that interchange of this is what is local knowledge, this is what can be shared. How do we, use all of that together to improve people's lives?
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. There's a person that sells seeds in Tampa, and I don't remember what it's called, but she was born, I don't know if it was Thailand or something like that over there, but it ended up being the same growing zone as here. Mm-hmm. And so she's been able to introduce all of these plants that are perfectly acclimatized to this growing region, which coming from Canada, I came from Canada. So I had to relearn everything I knew about gardening in Florida.
Right, yeah.
So, because, I could take my Canadian seeds, but they'd just die or get eaten within a week. So
right. Well, so did Echo's founder.
So he went through the same thing I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. The climate zones are different, but through the tropics, there are so many things that will grow, but it's not the traditional, Midwestern or temperate North American crops, or even Northern European. We have a lot of trainees from Europe that are used to the wheats and the flax and those things that just need to be changed and replaced, but the knowledge does transfer. So yeah, it's wonderful to share with people who are kind of relearning, and then others. I'm just a generation out of farming, with a couple different life changes. I might have grown up on a farm in Indiana, but as it is, we didn't. And knowledge is lost in just one generation. It's very interesting. And that's happening all around the world. So if we can, re-energize the next generation back into farming, show the dignity of providing the food and make it viable. Like so many farms in the US and around the world are, suffering under debt and challenges and politics. And, the small scale farm can provide what we need. But I think we've maybe, all suffered under those situations.
Yeah, for sure. And this kind of leads into my next question. How does the Echo Global Farm in Florida demonstrate this diverse growing conditions from around the world?
Well, it's one of the coolest places. So I do hope that your listeners can come and visit. We have 7 different regions where we've broken the farm up into these different growing conditions. And of course, they're not perfect, but we have a monsoon region where it's typical Florida, dry season and wet season, but wet season is really wet. And so they have both of the challenges to not get washed away, but also conserve water in the dry season. We have a rainforest demonstration where we demonstrate multi-story agriculture. So we have the high trees, the medium trees, the lower bush layer, and then what can grow on the ground. And some of the limitations in the rainforest include space. Because if someone's trying not to slash and burn a rainforest, they need to put nutrients back into their soil and continue to, feed the soil that they're working in. One of the most memorable, I think, is the urban garden, because we have a simulated rooftop and it's cement. What can you grow if you're looking at, an acre of cement or a backyard that's, pretty dense, hard soil? You're not sure of the quality of the soil. You could do container gardens, upright gardens, sack gardens. We have trees growing in kiddie pools.
Wow.
And it is amazing to see what is possible in, 3 inches of soil, 6 inches of soil, or on a carpet. Right. And then we have a small, not even a hill, a small mountain that we call Mount Victor. And we demonstrate erosion control in the highlands, because the tropics does have a lot of hilly mountainous regions where farmers, if they can't farm in the valley, will go up the hillside And then if we cut the trees down to do some agriculture, we're denuding the hillside and then losing the soil running off into the spaces. So we really want to conserve the topsoil in those eroded or prone to erosion spaces. And so we demonstrate how to safely and conservatively farm on a hilly slope. So that's just a couple of the examples, but we do try to, demonstrate certain times of the year. Our key times for that are our rice paddy is in, its best show in August. So you can see the cycle of rice year round, but in August, you can see, the 3 feet tall rice grasses waving in the wind. And I don't know anywhere else in Southwest Florida that you can see rice growing. So it's pretty a unique set of demonstrations, but the whole goal is to have someone visit and they can say, I can do that. Those are our resources, or those are our problems, and these are solutions to that. So it is a demonstration farm, but guests from all around the world see and are inspired. And it's really fun to connect with people that say, oh, that's what rice looks like growing, or I'd never seen a starfruit on a tree.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. And I understand you have an extensive community, an online community for overseas workers. Tell me about how that works and what kind of resources are available for that.
Yes. So echocommunity.org is the repository. So for 40 years, we were collecting good ideas from Echo's network and then sharing them through a journal that we published quarterly and collecting those. And when the internet became part of our process, we were able to digitize PDFs and HTML documents. And now we were able to multiply that to a kind of social media-esque place, a forum for conversations about agriculture. So Echo historically would answer questions asked of us from different people. One historically was, how do you keep baboons out of the garden? If you're trying to grow a garden in a space where, maybe they haven't been successful, and this is one challenge, what are ways to do that? And so Echo would research and then answer so that when we got that question again, we knew how to answer, And so over the years, we've been able to share those resources in many different languages. They're optimized on our website. And then our conversations is newer in the last couple of years, where it's that forum system where people can not only ask Echo, but ask our whole network. We have 18,000 members that log in and access our resources, our seed bank, our conferences, our trainings, and then they can answer one another. And it's been amazing to see people get answers like from Echo feedback and then others around the world saying, I'm 50 kilometers away. Can we meet up? I might have an answer for you. And that's only possible through, that kind of networking, crowdsourcing information. So if anyone does have questions, if they're working internationally or they have challenges in an ag project in the US, conversations.echocommunity.org is a resource for you. It's free. And we just want to, help the most people with the knowledge that God's given us.
Oh, I love that. And so how can someone be part of an online community or in-person Echo training?
So we do have trainings here in Florida. We are expecting an upcoming week-long training called TAD. That's Tropical Agriculture Development.
Ooh,
and it's come spend a week on a Florida farm. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay here, eat here, and learn here. And those opportunities are, they do happen around the year, but they're, one at a time as you look at trainings at echocommunity.org. But then we do have trainings offered around the world at each of our impact centers. They range from like a 3-day conference where, a couple hundred people would gather together to a 1-day or a 3-day training in a village or in a community or sponsored by an organization. So sometimes those are open to the public and sometimes those are, just for the group. But echocommunity.org has all of those. And if people were looking for resources on a certain plant or a certain technique or certain style of agriculture, we have documentation there too in multiple languages. So the goal would be to resource people and then make it shareable. And it's all free. Development workers can get free seeds each year, 10 packets of seeds per year. We do ask hobby farmers if they're going to request eco seeds to pay a minimal fee for those. But if we're getting seeds to those that need them around the world, we do that for free.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. So I visited the nursery a few weeks ago for the very first time, and I was just blown away by the variety of plants and seeds that I had no idea what they were. And I've actually told my kids now that for Mother's Day, Christmas, birthdays, I just want gift cards for Echo. That's it. And, we're really fortunate to live here in Southwest Florida, in this subtropical growing zone, and have the opportunity to grow some pretty wild fruits and vegetables right here. So with all of this available to us here in Florida, why do you think so many yards are just the same old palms and ornamentals that don't give anything back?
Well, it's easy for one. I live in a townhome, and here I'm giving you all my secrets, but against the rules, I have some container gardens kind of pushed up into the landscaping. Because as long as the mowing company doesn't complain, it's okay, right? But if you're either outsourcing mowing, or, not aware of what can grow easily, it's just easier to do what, grows without a lot of help. I've seen people who have cranberry hibiscus in their landscaping because the landscaper put it in, but they don't know it's edible. It's just pretty. Yeah. So there, like we said before, some generational loss, some, knowledge loss. It's sometimes just easier. And then there's the traditions of some of the HOAs that want to keep things, tidy and not fruit falling on the ground. Moringa is another example where this tree is highly nutritive. It grows in the subtropics and tropics. You can pick the leaves off the tree. It's incredibly useful, but not many people know about it, and it's not commercially available. It's really hard. And I think in some of those ways, it's not very profitable. So people haven't invested the money into making moringa projects. But, status quo is one of those things. If the yard is fine, and it's not for sale at a box store, then it's fine. But there are some amazing examples of diverse, yardscapes where we have, learned from people and taught others who just really want to grow food. I love the idea of sending my kids out to grab some of the herbs that we're growing, and then we put it right into our food, that kind of primal providing for ourselves. It is growing. But as far as, full on, also there are, county rules sometimes that make it harder. Yeah. So it's a large challenge, but what I do know is that if people start small, there's always improvement, and you can always add, and you don't have to know everything about, food, forest, landscaping, but starting with one or two plants that you're aware of and you can add them to your diet, it's all a good start.
Absolutely. And I actually bought a moringa tree.
Yay.
And when I was at Echo a couple of weeks ago, I'd been researching them like crazy. And it really is a very incredible plant. Like that I read there's, more vitamin C than oranges. There's more calcium than a glass of milk. There's more, it has protein, it has everything. So now I go out in the morning and grab, a little thing of leaves and chop it up in my omelet. There's so many little things like that. I go through the garden and grab the sweet potato leaves and the garlic chives and everything. And it goes into all of our food. And these, superfoods really do make your diet so much more robust. And yeah, I'm so excited about this moringa tree because everybody tells me it's going to grow very fast.
Yeah. And especially if you keep it trimmed, it's easy to reach and accessible. My sister-in-law has a moringa tree that they pull in for the winter because they're not in the subtropics, and they take it out in the summer. But her friends think her kids are crazy because they'll just go up and eat the leaves as the house.
It's good.
It is.
Yeah, very cool. And even when you don't live in a tropical climate, like back home in Canada, I was able to grow so much food in a short amount of growing season.
Mm-hmm.
And with like you said before, the political, global climate, fragile supply chain, do you think that there's more need than ever to teach people here in America how to become a little bit more self-sufficient? It's almost like reverse missionary work now, right?
Well, yeah, I think self-sufficiency has been lost with the increase of convenience foods and, fast food, access to so many diverse things. But as we see, if, the grocery store is having a challenge or if something's out, it's so great to have it stored, something that you grew, and the ability to provide for yourself feels right. It feels good. I know some people are very busy. It does take a little bit of learning and processing, but, even in our life, if I can get extra tomatoes or extra fruits, we try to put it away as jam or sauces or, whatever we can store. Every little bit helps. So people don't have to feel like they have to do it all, become a homesteader, but learning a little bit makes things taste good. You know what goes into your food, I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Right. And we all just lived through Hurricane Ian, where we got 12, 14 days of no grocery stores, no gas, right. We had to just survive. And, I was lucky. My neighbors and we all kind of pooled food before as things were going bad because our fridges weren't working. But it really, events like that, those catastrophes really show you, what if the grocery store doesn't open for 2 weeks? What are you going to eat? Right. And it's a lot of things that I never thought about before Ian, especially, and water too.
Right. We definitely live in a time of abundance where we have so much that it's going to waste. Mm-hmm. And if we could limit our consumption of the resources and commodities around the world, then maybe it would be more fairly distributed. But also just knowing that what you can live with and live without, I think is important for all of us in the Western world to realize that, our resources are not unending. The world is finite.
Yeah, good point. So can you tell me about some of your favorite plants, kind of what they're used for, where they came from, some of your just absolute favorites? I just brought home from Echo a peanut butter plant. So in hopes that my son, who does not like fruit, I'm hoping he'll be able to have a fruit that he actually enjoys. He hates the bitter fruit sweetness. So
that's so
I'm
interesting.
Hoping. Yeah. He's it's strange for kids, right? But
no fruit.
Yeah. So what are some of yours?
Well, my favorite leaf on the farm is K-tuck. It's a green bush that thrives in kind of the hot, humid environment, and it can handle shade. So if you have a space like under a tree or in a shady part of the yard, K-tuck is a great option. It tastes a little bit nutty, and you can pull the leaves in a salad. You can get the young tips. The little new growth is my favorite, but it's from Asia. It's a really great leaf. Chaya is another one. Chaya I have in my yard because I harvested some leaves and I didn't want to put the sticks in the trash can or the compost bin because they would take a while. So I just chucked them into the bushes, and lo and behold, the chaya is now growing in the bushes.
Wow.
And so chaya is very hardy. You do have to boil the leaves first. So you would eat them like a cooked green, like a lot of the Southern, mustard greens or anything like that. But if you boil it for a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you put it in muffin tins, you get these little pucks of cooked greens. Oh. So then you can put them in soups or stir fries or saute them as a side. We make a peanut butter chaya dish that's out of this world. And that's one of the Echo recipes that who knows where it came from, but it's passed on generation after generation. Carambola is the star fruit that I mentioned. Okay. It grows super well in this environment. We get 3 harvests of star fruit a year per tree. And there's so
I
much.
need to add that to my list.
Yes. You can put them in cakes or, water, sauces, salads, anywhere you would have fruit. They're a little less sweet. So they're kind of on that like tart nature, but Bell Carambola is the best variety that I know of. They're large fruit, they're juicy, they're sweet, but not too sweet. And then I adore mango season. So, I have a favorite Asian variety of mango and a favorite like other variety of mango that are the different style. So I'd say the Kerry mango or the Nam Dak Mai are both great for their own, differences. And at Echo, we generally carry 9 or 12 varieties of mango.
Wow.
So you could have 2 different ones in your home and benefit from both. So some would be sweeter and juicier, and some would be a little more tart, depending on the needs there. So there's so much diversity. I think that if you, start small and add to your diet, add to your yard, I think it's a great way to both decrease our need for groceries. I mean, it wouldn't overtake it, of course, but decrease. And then just have fun. Like, who doesn't want to bake with something that came from their backyard?
Yeah, exactly. And just since moving here, I'd had mangoes before, but they're so versatile. It was amazing last year when they were in season and just getting all of these mangoes from people with trees. And I canned mango salsa. We had mango on the grill. We had, oh my goodness, you can put them in anything. They're such a great fruit. It's so exciting. Yes.
We love to make mango jam in the summer and then break it out midwinter. And it has this like high tropical feel. And, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And then also miracle fruit is another one that I'm very interested in. I didn't get it this time at this visit, but at another visit, I will. I know that it's what it does is it makes anything taste good. So if you eat a miracle fruit and then a lemon, it tastes sweet, right? I haven't tried it, so I don't know for sure. Yeah. And I know a few people right now who are on chemotherapy and it's supposed to be good for them. It helps take away the metal taste. Can you buy the fruits or do you have to grow the plant?
I haven't seen the fruits for sale anywhere. They aren't one of those that ripen at the same time. So it's not easy to sell a bunch. You have to have just the ones that are ripe. We do have plants here on the farm for demonstration purposes and research. But yeah, you can grow your own plant and then have access to them. They sell them in pots, so you could get them mature enough to start fruiting. It's crazy what that. So yeah, the pulp of the fruit is what kind of coats your taste buds and changes it. And I read an article more than a decade ago. There were parties in New York City where they were serving these little berries and foods so that you could taste the differences and kind of enjoy the culinary experience of the miracle fruit. So
that sounds so neat.
There are so many diverse plants that, we just need to learn and see what fits our own diet, our needs. You're right. Chemotherapy is terrible, but beneficial for those that are on it. So if there are ways that we can improve their condition of life, miracle fruit might be one of those. Also, just eating natural, healthy foods that where they came from. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And changing gears a little bit, on your website, I see it states, we believe that as active participants in the Great Commission and stewards of great agricultural knowledge, it is our duty to grow and make disciples. Can you explain that and what that means?
Sure. So Echo works to serve those around us. And the Bible is very clear that we're to love not only our neighbors, but also our enemies. And the best way to do that is to serve them with the resources that they need. So Echo feels that this way of meeting tangible physical needs is the most efficient way to help families out of poverty. And we're called to do that by our faith. So we are a Christian organization. We equip missionaries and churches and nonprofits, and we train Muslims and anyone who wants to feed their communities. So it's a wonderful place to be because we do what we do because of our faith, but share with everyone because of that same faith. And I spent some time in West Africa, and they say a hungry stomach has no ears. So if you're thinking about, sharing the gospel or sharing stories or sharing good news, it's really hard for people to listen if they're struggling, if they're, on the basis of, from a Western perspective, bankruptcy, or not knowing where their next paycheck's going to come from, or where their harvest is not enough to provide for their family. This whole gamut is, if you really love people, serving them in both ways, this holistic gospel of this is why Jesus came to die for us, and this is what we need for today, works together.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And what role does faith play in your own life?
Well, it's the reason I'm here. So I love to love on people, and I love to serve them. My skills happen to be in communications, and I'm better with computers than with plants. So on the Echo team, I get to support this amazing work. I get to share the stories of what's happening around the world and connect with our listeners today, and help encourage everyone that we are called to serve. We are called to make disciples, and we are called to do that in the best way we know how. And that's what I'm doing personally. So each day, the best way I know how is to support this mission and to be part of something that is, feeding people around the world and sharing the love of Jesus. And it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for your service, because you guys are doing amazing things all around the world.
I do. I represent an amazing team. So yes, shout out to everyone serving Echo. We have hundreds of volunteers, thousands of donors that make this work possible. So we would love to share more about that. And if you are listening and want to learn more about Echo, you can visit us at echonet.org.
Awesome. And how simple is it for snowbirds who are visiting to book a tour while they're here?
It's great. So you can come in person to Echo. We give tours Tuesday through Saturday. Or if you're looking at a specific date and time, you can look at our website and, book your time. It's echonet.org/go. And so we encourage people to take that tour of the farm. The tour is about an hour and a half, but you might want at least 2 hours to visit. And then we do have our global farm tour and our appropriate technology village tour. So you can kind of see the whole thing, the creative gardening, and then ways to use what you have to make what you need.
Right. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for joining me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, all the links are provided in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag Spotlight on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, AgFuse. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day. Our newest podcast by North American Ag is called What Color is Your Tractor? The stories behind the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate. Hosted by me, Chrissy Wozniak. We take a deep dive into the companies that have built modern agriculture. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to whatcolorisyourtractor.com. Available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.